We're all familiar with the name Roundup. It is a weed killer. It's a Germany-owned, it's a chemically owned company, the mother company, I suppose, you could call them Monsanto. They make Roundup. A Californian jury ordered Monsanto to pay nearly $290 million, that's around €250 million, for failing to warn a dying groundskeeper that its weed killer Roundup might cause cancer. Now, jurors unanimously found Monsanto acted with malice and that Roundup and the professional-grade version Ranger Pro contributed substantially to Dwayne Johnson's terminal illness. So the company are saying, look, it's still safe, but a jury found otherwise. Angus Kennedy, with Nature Northwest. Good morning to you, Angus.
Greg, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Your reflections on this finding, because it is a product, Roundup, that a lot of us have used in the past or are currently using.
It's something that is used by millions worldwide, literally every single day. So it's a huge product. It's a huge product that's used in Ireland. We use it personally for our driveways, and the rest of it we use it in our farming. It's used for just across the board, really. But I think this finding, because we've talked about this before on the show here, and there's quite a lot of science that points towards the active ingredient in Roundup, glyphosate, probably causing cancer in humans. But there's also there's supposedly scientific work out there that says no, it doesn't. So when you have those kind of conversations, it goes back and forth and who is right. But I think what the big difference of this case is this case, as well as the jury ordering that Monsanto pay out for this man this poor unfortunate man who worked as a groundskeeper spraying in schools and whatnot in San Francisco. They also said that there's clear and convincing evidence of malice or oppression of some of the scientific facts about this. And this, I think, is the one that will have the big ramifications for Monsanto and for its product.
I mean, the World Health Organization used the word probably in 2015 in describing, its effect on cancer. It probably causes cancer, and I presume the company's sort of hanging their hat on that to some extent. But there seems to be a lot of evidence out there. And I think this is a game changer, isn't it? I think this is going to be a game changer in that people might say, right, we're not going to use this any longer, and the company's going to have to change the way it does business.
Well, we all remember the battle that went on for years and years with the tobacco industry. It's very hard to be able to prove something definitively caused this person's disease or this person's state of health. But what they can do is that they can say it's probably causing this, it's leaning towards. And the more evidence there is like that, the stronger their case gets. But we remember during the tobacco industry, it was the same kind of thing. It was hard to have a clear-cut hand up saying that cigarette causes this cancer or this sickness, but more and more evidence kind of pushed towards that way. But meanwhile, the tobacco industries, they fought against that tooth and nail, and that's something that seems to be Monsanto are doing, and they're doing it in ways that aren't necessarily straight up all the time. They seem to be manipulating evidence. There seems to be a lot of ghost-written work, which in other words is scientific studies that they have got their own scientists to do, they frame their own questions for, and they've published that out there as fact. It's not an independent, peer-reviewed study, and that's something that a lot of the big associations that want to use this product are hanging their hat on, which isn't good. And
I wonder, will people get the message, and will they sort of say, right, we're going to look for alternatives here? Because I did mention at the start of the programme, Johnson & Johnson, they sell talcum powder, and they were ordered to pay €4 billion in damages in a lawsuit. It was a class action. Around 22 women were involved in this because the company, it contained asbestos. Can't say that. Asbestos and caused cancer. But I'm still seeing people walking out of the shop with it in their basket. So maybe will the message get through on Roundup?
I think it's a campaign that's been going for a long time. People are aware of it. And bit by bit, governments are changing as well. The fact that we were debating this last year, that debate didn't really come up so much before in the past. The fact that the EU the EU Commission said they don't want to be ruling on this anymore because they're being made out to be the bad guys. So they've passed it on to the governments. And the governments, the MEPs then voted whether it should stay or not stay within European use. And Ireland is one of the countries that backed saying it should stay. A lot of other countries said it shouldn't. But either way, they'll always pass, and it was granted another 5 years licence. But there's roughly 4,000 plaintiffs that are looking in America, looking to claim against San Francisco. And they'll all have taken heart from this case that just happened. And their lawyers are feeling very confident. And they say they have a whole load of evidence that hasn't been revealed yet, wasn't even revealed in the case, showing how Monsanto have been covering up various scientific evidence. And I think that's something it's very worrying. It's very worrying for farming associations, but it's very worrying for any of us that have a bottle of Roundup or any one of those products. I think there's something like 150 products.
That's what I was going to say. We could all think, right, let's avoid Roundup, and we're helping reduce our risk of cancers. But this active ingredient, I suppose you could call it.
Glyphosate is the thing to look for.
It's in many products.
It's in so many products. In the States, it's about 270 products. It's in over 100 products in Ireland. Another very interesting fact with it is when it's spread on soil, when it's sprayed on soil, whatever it does to the plants, now it kills off all the other plants that our butterflies and our bees rely on as well. But anyway, once it goes down into the soil, if the soil is healthy, now, that's a big if, but if the soil is healthy, there's bacteria in the soil that help to break it down, which stops it going into the water courses. But in Portugal and Italy, they have banned it from use in parks and schools and anywhere where there's hard surfaces. Because if I spray it on my driveway here at home to try and kill off all the weeds that are going up here, it'll go down, there's no soil underneath, there's no bacteria to break it down. So it'll go down into the water course, and then it'll be in the water system in and around the mountain area where I live. So as a result, some countries are banning it from use on hard surfaces, which is a step towards it, and that's something that we could certainly do here. And even without a ban, I think we should just be using common sense. When there's this much questions about our own health, we should be looking at ourselves and going, do we need to spray that stuff? Is it really necessary to start firing this around our parks?
But who do we elect our politicians to represent us and to make decisions on our behalf? We can't make these decisions. About 1.4 million people around Europe oppose the relicensing of the pesticide, but the EU in their wisdom said 5 more years. So effectively what the powers that be effectively said, right, it's okay that this may probably cause you cancer for the next 5 years, presumably under a lot of pressure from lobby groups and what have you. I mean, it's a crazy old world we live in.
It is crazy, and I've sympathy for farmers. Farmers are under all sorts of pressure. We heard just on the news bulletin there that they were talking about the pressure that they're going to be under for fodder and whatnot, and the very strange weather we've had this year. And there isn't easy alternatives for them. So some farming groups will say that they'll just be going back to farming in the 70s and 80s. And we all want cheap food. We all want our farmers. We demand that our farmers produce food at a ferocious rate and have the cost of it very, very low. And that's something that perhaps as a society we're going to have to look at, because do we want to be pushing our farmers into a corner where they feel they've no alternative but to use these things? For the farmers themselves that are using these sprays, and we see the tractors going around with the huge vats of this stuff on the back, they're being subjected to a lot of it. And if I was using this spray on any kind of regular basis, I'd be looking very closely at this case and thinking, gee, is this going to affect me and my family and the people around me?
What about the food supply? Is there any suggestion? I mean, obviously, the thing about it is it's actually a really good thing for protecting. I mean, it's actually good for the environment in a way, and it's good for farmers, of course, but it does have this probable cancer-causing property as well. But, I mean, do we know its influence on does it get into the food supply through vegetation?
Yeah, it does. I wouldn't say it's good for the environment. I've got to say, from a pure biodiversity point of view, if we didn't have to worry about anything else, I would be delighted to see it banned today. It
apparently has a positive impact on cutting greenhouse gases. That's kind of what I meant there. So, but I know what you're saying.
But it does go into food supplies. The Germans, who use a huge amount of this, they really rely on it very heavily, they have found that there is 4 times the safe water level, and 4 times more than the safe water level, the EU water level, in mother's breast milk in Germany. Now, it's quite an emotive study and it's an emotive subject. But so the mothers that have been eating the food that has been sprayed by this stuff, they are literally feeding it into their newborn babies through their own breast milk. So we're eating it in our foods, we're finding it in water, they're finding it in air, they're finding it everywhere. And so it's gone in. So the more that we see evidence pointing towards cancers being caused by this, the more we really need to look at it. I would be amazed if that decision had gone through as easily, and that there was a good bit of opposition to it last year if this case had been out. And I don't think it's necessarily what the jurors found for that one individual, this poor man who is very sick. I think it's more the amount of evidence that has been suppressed, the amount of science that has been potentially manipulated by the companies involved, and that's the really scary thing, I think.
Yeah, and as we saw with the talcum powder story and smoking and all the other issues like that there, what will happen is it'll be frustrated in courts, and while an appeal's on, you can't necessarily rely on the conclusion of a case if it's being appealed and so on and so forth. And they just need to kick this down the road. They've got 5 years from the EU. The longer they can keep it on the shelves, so to speak, the more they're making money. They can sort of firefight these court cases.
And making vast amounts of money out of it.
Yeah. Exactly. Listen, thanks for that, Angus. It's a step in the right direction, but as I say, they're going to resist it tooth and nail.
It is, but it was good on you, because we need to have the conversation just like you're doing here, and we need to start thinking. And if we are going to ask farmers to stop using this stuff, we need to help our farming industry to come up with alternatives, and we need to start looking at the prices perhaps that the farmers are getting and what we're paying for food.
Is there a good weed killer, though?
Well, this is the most effective one, unfortunately, and that's the problem. But it kills everything, and it's not just the weeds.
Right.
If we could just pick out something as simple as that, it would be a lot easier. All
right, Angus, thanks very much. Angus Kennedy there with Nature Northwest. 086 60 25,000. That's the text line. 086 60 25,000.